Hello everyone and welcome to the HSPH IT AV Inventory Database. This is a project that I worked on as part of my internship with the Department of Information Technology at Harvard School of Public Health. And the purpose of this project is to have one place to keep track of the classrooms, conference room, and the AV equipment that is located within them. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. So what you can see in my screen right now is the dashboard, and this is the very first view that users will see when connecting to the database. This has a short overview of the objects that the database keeps track of, as well as some of the keyboard shortcuts that you could find useful while navigating the database. The last one of which is the Control-Shift-T shortcut, and that allows you to take a look at the database tables. The tables that are marked in gray are the location, item, order, and person, which I'll be referring to as the main objects. These are objects that I intended for the user to be working with the most. And then there are the location, image, building, and role tables, as well as some other instances of existing tables, which are just auxiliary tables, and they are mainly there for aiding the display and the storage of these four main tables. I'll be returning to this as I go through the existing views. And as you can see as well, there is a container which has a PDF manual of how to navigate the database, how to work with records, how to edit layouts, edit accounts, and how to edit the tables and the fields in the database, as well as implementing some of the tricks that I used in this database. However, for this video, my main focus is going to be on moving around the database and working with the records that are here. The very first item that I would like to look at for this video is the location table. This is one of the main objects and one of the most important ones, since it keeps track of every classroom, conference room, and location of interest that might be located in the college. You can sort this table by using the sorting buttons right here. You can sort in either ascending order or in descending order by any of these columns as necessary. You can also access find mode and look at building records that meet the characteristics you need. So for example, right now I just looked for rooms in Kresge with capacity over 12, and you can also access pre-filtered canned searches, if you will, of those locations by clicking these buttons. This shows a list of all of the locations of type classroom, and this one shows the locations of type conference room. This one is currently empty, but it shows locations of type digital signage, while this one shows every location in existence of any type. Here you can also access the buildings table, which is one of the auxiliary tables that we talked about earlier, and this is mostly used for filtering and display purposes. Every location in this list view has its corresponding form view. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. The form view allows you to keep track of the fields that were in the list view, as well as some additional details that are only applicable to this location. Some of that information is related records, such as the equipment and the related contacts. We'll be getting back to those later. The keywords, which describe the functionality supported by this location. The additional notes, which allows you to add any notes or instructions or anything the users should know about this room using a freeform text field, and the multiple image container, which allows you to store and display images that relate to this room. This last item, the multiple image container, is one that is not supported by FileMaker right out of the box. So let me go ahead and talk a little bit about that. The way this is implemented is there is a separate table that keeps track of all of the images of all locations. And then every image is linked via a foreign key that references the original location ID. What this location form view does then is that it looks for all images that match this location ID and then displays them here using a portal. So as you can see, these related records here are displayed via a portal, and this displays related records, except it only displays one row and it allows you to scroll through and view every image that is in this container. The equipment portal also allows you to view the items and devices that are linked to this view, and you can also add them here as necessary. As you can see, this was added to the equipment table, and this item that I just created will be linked to this location ID. So now that I showed you a bit about how equipment is displayed in the location form view, let's go ahead and look at the full item table. The item table keeps track of every piece of equipment, any device, any computer that is in the locations that are in this database. And it allows you to sort and find any device depending on what you need, just as the previous list view. Again, just like with the location records, every item record has its corresponding form view. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. The item form view has a similar purpose to that of the location form view. It displays information that only pertains to the individual item record. And some of that information is also stored in related records, specifically the purchasing records, which we'll be returning to later, the keywords, the manual. You can add a PDF manual here if you want, similar to how I added a manual in the dashboard. And you can also add one image per item. One of the interesting things about this view is that you may change the building and the room number via conditional drop-down forms. So as you can see here, this is a list of all the buildings. As I showed you before, that's stored in an auxiliary table, and the value list is created from those. And that is used then for filtering in these drop-down menus. As you can see, the room numbers change once you change the building name. Just as you can use drop-down menus for the building and room number, you may also use drop-down menus for the buyer and the seller of this item. They are stored in the same person table. However, thanks to table instances, you may have two different persons tied to this order record. The buyer ID links to an instance of the person table called employee, and the seller ID links to an instance of the person table called vendor. These two are stored in the same table. However, different paths are taken from them to display in these drop-down menus. So with that being said, let's go ahead and look at the contact/person records. The context table keeps track of all the existing people, either in Harvard or outside of Harvard, that are related or that have a role in the locations from the database. One interesting thing, one feature I added is the active flag. This is a calculation which marks you as not active once your end date is in the past. Let's go ahead and take a look at the form view for contacts. The form view has an image container which allows you to add an image for the contact if you want. It also contains all the fields and contact information that might be useful when you're trying to have a repair done at a room, or when there is an inquiry for a purchase. You may look at this record and find out their number or email and contact them. Another interesting thing is the roles structure here. This is another auxiliary table. This table lets you create roles for users. What that means is you can link a location and a person together and assign them a role using this freeform text field. Assigning a person and a location to each other can be done by using this drop-down menu here. So if we wish to choose John Harvard as the admin for this room, you may do so by selecting their name and clicking somewhere outside the drop-down menu. And these roles are also displayed in each location. So if you go to one of the locations here, you will see this related context table, and that is fetched from the roles auxiliary table. The way that is done is it filters by roles records that contain this location ID. Finally, the context form view has the purchasing records related table, which keeps track of the orders put in by this user. Let's go ahead and take a look at the purchasing/order table. The order table allows you to keep track of orders and purchases done by a user, as well as who they purchased the items from, the site of purchase, the date purchased, as well as any equipment that is involved in this order, and other information that can be seen in the form view. Let's go and take a look at the form view. This is the form view for the order table, and it displays the information for the buyer, the seller, date purchased, and the site of purchase. This also includes an additional field for an invoice. You may add a PDF file here, and you may also look at the equipment that was purchased as part of this order. This is a related records portal, and it allows you to keep track of all the items that were purchased as part of this record, and also allows you to add more to it. In addition, there is a second portal which shows the sum of all the prices of those items. So that was a short overview of my ITAV inventory database for Harvard School of Public Health. If you have any questions on any of the items that you saw in the application, go ahead and let me know in the comments, and I'll be happy to help you. Thank you for watching.